The PowerPoint is called Henri Matisse and Fauvism by Julia Siena. The class is Art Appreciation, and the term is Fall 2020. What is Fauvism? Fauvism is a painting style made popular in France in the beginning of the 20th century. These artists use pure, bright color, often applied straight from the paint tube without being mixed. This style of art was introduced by Henri Matisse and André Derain when they began using unnatural color and vivid brushstrokes. Fauve painters became labeled fauves, which means wild beasts, by art critics. They didn't like the rejection of traditional depictions of 3D space that were used at the time. Fauves showed new picture space shown by movement of color. Many used complementary colors to show how they make one another appear brighter. History of how Fauvism was developed. Fauvists were the first to completely break away from Claude Monet's Impressionism, shown in Claude Monet's The Poppy Field. Vincent van Gogh's A Starry Night is an example of post-impressionism, which helped influence artists moving further away from traditional methods of perception. These inspired Fauvists to use flat areas or patches of color. History of how Matisse developed Fauvism. Matisse was raised in a northern French town popular for its luxury fabrics. The town he was from was dull and mostly colorless, but he saw lots of pure color that was involved in the textile industry. His parents owned their own business, a grain store. He would see his mother mix paints here, also exposing him to bright colors. He was sent off to become a lawyer when he was young, but later took up painting. His breakthrough as an artist happened in summers of 1904 and 1905, when he was inspired by the sunlight of the south of France to use very bright colors in painting. After suffering and recovering from cancer and developing severe arthritis, Matisse became unable to stand to paint. He then began creating his famous cutouts, which involved large paper cutouts that he would recreate from his wheelchair. 3 artwork examples. Matisse's New Blue 4. This was a paper cutout mounted on canvas. It used one bright and unmixed color. It was a non-traditional depiction of the human body. There was unusual use of 3D space and proportion used in this painting. The collection it was from was called Nudes. Henri Matisse's The Dessert Harmony in Red, painted in 1908, was oil on canvas. The unusual use of 3D space is shown by the room here. You can't tell the difference between the wall, the table, or the floor, but you can tell that all 3 exist. The same color is used for all 3 of those. It's the same bright red. For the third artwork, Henri Matisse's Sorrow of the King, painted in 1952. This is another paper cutout. The use of 3D space is so unusual in this piece, it's hard to interpret the cutout without being a critic. There are very unnatural shapes and colors used here, which are very typical for Fauvism. Future influences. Hawthorne Frieze was inspired by the bright colors that were used by Matisse and went on to create works of Fauvism, shown here. Here he uses very unnatural colors and depictions of a landscape. Raoul Dufy, influenced by Matisse's bold style in Boats at Martigues in 1908. Here he uses bright, brilliant colors as well as unnatural renditions of 3D space, typical used in Fauvism. Georges Braque was inspired to create a definite sense of rhythm and structure out of spots of color, influenced by Matisse. He went on to found the art style known as Cubism. His painting here, he uses extremely unnatural depictions of 3D space. This hardly resembles a real landscape in color or in picture. Works cited. The first page, and then continued